Buckle up. A lifetime ago, when I was in college, I did a semester abroad in Tokyo, Japan. And during the first week at the school, they organized this welcoming barbecue party. It was a social mixer for all the international students to meet all of the native Japanese students. And it was on a beach in Kamakura. And while I was there, I met a very young woman. I don't remember her name, so you have to excuse me if I'm going to be cliche and refer to her as Yumi, because it's a really common and simple name. Within a few minutes of speaking with Yumi, she was really sociable and outgoing. We exchanged phone numbers. She also exchanged phone numbers with about 10 or 15 other international students, all predominantly white American guys. And maybe this isn't inherently weird or creepy yet, but don't worry, it's about to get there. For one, all the other Japanese students had no idea who she was. She wasn't at the school. No one knew where she came from or why she was at the party or how she would even have known about it. And a few days later, all of us who had spoken with her received a phone call from her, and she explained to us that her father was a doctor who was doing medical research. I bullshit you not. And he required blood samples specifically from white American males under the age of 25. And he had essentially sent her out to this college party to recruit the candidates to provide these samples of blood. And so she made a proposition that if we were willing to come to her father's medical practice to give an initial sample of our blood, he would pay us the Japanese equivalent to $200 cash, in which case he was going to screen and test our blood for what I have no fucking clue. But if we passed that, we would be invited to return and provide a further sum of blood for the Japanese equivalent to about $500 cash. So now we're starting to get a little weird and creepy, maybe about towards the end of a first act of a horror film. But I'm 20, living in a really expensive country, and I have such great stories to tell in general because I have a problem with saying no. So I went along with this, and I was given a place and time to meet. I had to go out to this really distant rural suburb at 6 in the morning, and it turns out his medical practice was located in this really tiny Western-style row home in the middle of Timbuktu, Japan. And when you went in, there was nothing to suggest that this was a medical practice, and it was filthy, which is really strange because nothing in Japan is fucking filthy. But this place had this smell of rotten garbage. There was dust everywhere. The downstairs living room was the waiting room. There were 2 other white guys on a couch and 5 Japanese high school students, all women, sitting on in other chairs staring at the ground. And I started to notice that there were medical posters on the wall, which gave me a little comfort until I realized they were all specifically female bodies, genitalia and fetuses and wombs. And maybe I have an overactive imagination, but in that moment I couldn't help but think, is this some unlicensed abortion clinic? Where am I? So I was third in line to be called up. The actual doctor's examination room was up on the second floor, and when both of the other 2 guys came down with their envelope full of cash, they had an expression on their face like they had just seen a dead body, and I, learned why pretty soon thereafter. When I was called up, the actual examination room was just as filthy as downstairs, old books stacked up to chest high everywhere, this really old, archaic, medical examining table. And the doctor himself looked like a mad scientist from a horror movie and had a personality to boot. I'm gonna be very careful with my impression, but I remember very specifically him saying, "Oh, you come to give me your blood?" I don't know, I'm starting to have second doubts. He says, no, sit down. Here, candy for you. That's all right, okay. "Oh, let me take your blood." And I remember him looking me directly in the eye while he was filling up this little glass vial, saying, see, your blood. Kirei desu ne, beautiful. And he's shaking my blood in front of my face, then hands me an envelope full of about 20,000 yen, $200. And I walk out with that same expression as the other 2 guys, feeling really dirty and bewildered. Maybe about a month later, I received a phone call from Yumi. Out of the 10 or so guys that she recruited, only about 2 of us passed the initial blood screening, and I was one of those 2. So she asked me if I want to return and donate more for $500. Yeah, sure, whatever. So this time she gives me a different address, and I'm really thankful that it's at an actual hospital this time. I'm not going back to his practice, and she's actually going to meet me at the entrance of this hospital. It was in an area called Odaiba, which is like, if you're unfamiliar, it's pretty much the Epcot Center from Disney World. It's this man-made island. It's like the land of tomorrow. And so I once again have to go out there at like crack ass of dawn. And I meet Yumi at the front of this hospital, and I notice that there's not any cars in the parking lot. She leads me inside, and it's abandoned. I shit you not. I don't know if it's like in the process of being torn down or built, but we're walking through dark hallways and corridors with plastic sheeting everywhere, completely bare walls. I'm really starting to get a little nervous, and she's walking ahead of me on her cell phone, and she's wearing a school uniform, and at one point she starts singing to herself, kind of just like quietly humming along. And maybe in any other circumstances this would be adorable, but right here it's absolutely fucking terrifying. And I'm thinking, I'm in a horror movie, and this is where the white guy fucking dies in the horror movie. And I keep thinking at any moment she's gonna like lift her head up and gonna reveal herself as some like ancient creature who's gonna suck my soul out of my asshole and spit it back into hell. But she does lift her head up, not an ancient creature of any sort, but she says, "Oh, we have to go outside now, follow me." She grabs my hand, leads me outside, practically running. I don't know if we're running to something or from something, but I'm really thankful to get outside in the daylight when an ambulance comes screeching into the parking lot and stops in front of us. These two nurses jump out and they grab me, pulling into the ambulance. And because this is Japan, both nurses are very attractive young women wearing what doesn't necessarily look like nurse outfits, but like sexy, scary, like cosplay nurse outfits with surgical masks. It's like I stepped into fucking Silent Hill. And they bring me in, and I do speak and understand some Japanese enough to know that they're not communicating anything to me in actual words. They're just making gesturing grunts and sounds. Ooh, and I'm really starting to get freaked out. I'm starting to resist, at which point they start bringing out restraints and start to strap me down to the chair, and I am convinced that I am about to disappear, that like no one at home is ever gonna know where I went to. And Yumi just keeps saying, "Daijoubu, daijoubu," which is like, relax, it's okay. And I'm like, no daijoubu, not fucking okay. They, without any foreplay, stick a needle in my arm. They fill up a little capsule full of my blood, switch it out, put in another one, switch it out, put in another one, until I start to get really woozy and lightheaded. They don't stop until I'm about ready to pass out, at which point they lift me out of the chair, escort me out of the ambulance. Yumi waves goodbye, the doors close, and the ambulance drives off. And I am left in that parking lot, bewildered and in shock, wondering, did I just get shystered? Did I just have my fucking blood stolen in Japan? A black limo pulls into the lot, and a chauffeur gets out with an envelope with my name on it. "Dozo, for you." I get into the back of the limo. There's a little basket with fruit and crackers and a juice box, and he asks me where I'm going. I give him the ID to my school, it has the address to my school, and he drives me back, and that was that. I never heard from Yumi ever again, but I'm still haunted to this day by this experience. As I got older, every time my body developed like a new weird condition or I got sick in a way that I had never been sick before, I always reflected back on that experience, convinced that I was a guinea pig for some like nefarious experiment. But 18 years later, I'm still here and $700 richer, all for it. Thank you.